Today we'll be converting our Sovol SV08 to Mainline Klipper. It's kind of a long video, but it will take you from start to finish. It's a complete tutorial. There is a user guide, a companion guide that goes along with the video, along with a couple files that you may need. It should be a lot of fun, so let's take a look. Well, for this conversion, we're going to need a couple parts and a couple of adapters. This is my original eMMC that came out of the printer. And then I have two of them, so I can show you the other one. But here's a 32 gig eMMC, along with the adapter to flash the eMMC. And then we're also going to need the ST-Link. The ST-Link is going to allow us to flash firmware onto the MCUs of both the main board and the tool head. And then you'll go back and do it again to flash Catapult so that you can load Mainline Klipper onto both the main board and the tool head. So this should be a lot of fun. Why would I want to convert my Sovol SV08 to Mainline Klipper? Well, for a couple reasons. One, because I want to move my machine entirely to CAN bus. So I have a CAN bus adapter. I'll be doing a video on that. This is the UTC CAN bus adapter. And then what we'll be doing is taking the current umbilical that goes between the main board and the tool head, and we're going to replace that with a simple 4-wire cable. So there'll be one small cable that goes from the main board. The umbilical will just be this. This is it. All right. And then from here, right, I'm going to add the EBB36 tool head controller. Okay. And then I'll be attaching the eddy coil to that. Right. So it'll gain a lot of functionality, but for me, the part about being Mainline Klipper is that when I've converted the machine, that'll allow me to participate in the Mainline Klipper community. All of the applications, updates, upgrades, and anything that I want to do, all the documentation then for Klipper will be Mainline Klipper oriented, right? So think of it this way. What we're going to be doing is just taking the main board of the SV08, treating it like a Big Tree Tech CB1. We'll be flashing the MMC, putting it on that main board, flashing the firmware onto the MCU, and now it's going to be very similar to that being just a single board computer. Like if we went out and got a Raspberry Pi with a base image, Debian image on it, and we use Kaya to install Klipper, and then flash the firmware on the printer, create the connection, and now we have Klipper, right? It's your regular Klipper, all right? So hopefully the documentation is good. It'll get you all the way through the end. If you follow it step by step, you should be able to get from beginning to end and have a working Mainline Klipper on your Sovol SV08. So the video is about an hour and 15, give or take, by the time I'm done editing. But the whole process for you, if you follow the instructions, should only take about between 2 and 2.5 hours. Here's what I want you to know. 2 things. Backup. Make backups. All right. You have the option here. You can go ahead and flash the MCUs on your main board and your tool head without making a backup. But there's no coming back from that if you don't have another eMMC. Okay. The other is we're going to take your existing printer CFG file from your existing installation, and we're going to move it into the new Klipper instance. So all of the definitions of your printer as it was, as a Sovol SV08 that came from the factory, and any changes that you've made except for plugins, let me be aware. Like, so for instance, I had Obico and Octo Everywhere. All right, those are going to have to be reinstalled. But all of the definitions about all of the parts of your printer are going to be there, right? Your bed size, the nozzle, the flying gantry, the all of your probing, all of that is gonna move over. All right. So when you first install Klipper in a normal environment, you'll just get a very small, minimal printer CFG file, printer config file. All right. And then you're going to have to add things, right, based on the type of printer that you have. In this case, we're going to take our old printer CFG, our old printer config, move it over to the new Klipper installation, and then just make a few changes here and there so it cooperates with the new firmware on the main board and the tool head. I hope this helps. I hope this works for everyone. Please, this is a lot of work. It takes a lot of time. I made a lot of mistakes, but hopefully the documentation will take care of all of those problems along the way. Please subscribe. Hit the like button. Leave all the comments that you can. I appreciate any of them. And I hope to make a lot more videos. I have a list of 29 more right now. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Let's get started. Okay. Before we get started, here's what I want to tell you. All right. So I've already used the instructions from the GitHub. I have flashed the eMMC, and I tried to follow the instructions from the GitHub. Got lost, frustrated, and things didn't work. So I started over again, flashed another eMMC, started from scratch, and just fixed all the problems along the way. And finally, I ended up where I believe we need to be in order to move on to flashing the main board and the tool head. So what you can see here is this is what I have two eMMCs, actually two MMCs. I have one that I just flashed and is currently attached to this computer, and I have one in the machine, and this is where I've gotten to. So right now, when I go into the main sale interface for that printer, I now get this MCU protocol error, okay, and it tells me that it's a firmware problem, and I think that's a good thing. So I believe that this is where we need to be in order to flash the MCUs for the main board, for the tool head, and the tool head contains an accelerometer, and that's where this ADX failure is occurring as well. So if the firmware on the tool head is not high enough, that will fail too. So I've rewritten the document, and I've made a temporary PDF out of it that we're going to work from, and we're going to see if I've fixed all the problems with the document. And if I can get all the way through this and the document works, I'll reformat it, make it pretty, and put it up on the drive for you guys, and make it available. Okay, so what we're going to do is start. We're going to use my document here. I made it in PDF format for us. And this is, I basically copied the Git into Microsoft Word and then made changes as I went. So basically what I did was I loaded it, I flashed the eMMC, and then I just went one step at a time until I got a failure. I fixed the failure and then took that information and added it to the doc. Okay, so this is assuming that you've already used, that you've already pulled down the image, right? So You've pulled down the image from Big Tree Tech, okay? And remember that there are two images there. There's one that's a full Klipper, and then there's one that is a minimal. It's the Debian 11 minimal kernel 516, etc., etc. And so the image that I'm using is that minimal image. It's flashed and currently plugged into an adapter, and it is attached to this machine. Okay. I'm currently on firmware version 232, but be that as it may, this is actually the wrong version. Let me open up the right version. Okay, here's a new version. So I'm starting with Sovol firmware version 232, which is the latest. And this is as of August 23rd, 2024. Okay, so once we have that image burned onto the eMMC, and it is attached to the computer, we're going to need to change a few things. We're going to make a change to this board environment.txt file. So I'm going to open up Explorer here, and we're going to go to it. The volume label is boot, and what you'll see is there's a file here called boardenv.txt. A couple things you should know. I use a couple tools. I'll put links to them. Actually, I think I put a couple links to a couple things in the document. I use Notepad++ because the contents are persistent, right? So you throw something into Notepad++, you close Notepad++, you open it back up, it's still there. I also use WinSCP. And WinSCP is a graphical user interface that works over port 22. So it's like SSHing in, but you have a graphical user interface so that you can see all the contents of things. And we'll talk about that in a minute. So what we're going to do is we're going to change the contents of boardenv.txt. So I'm going to right click and I'm going to open it with Notepad++. Okay? So here's Notepad++. And you can see that I already had some things in here so that I had them ready for you guys. All right. So we need to change a few things. The first one that we need to change, according to the instructions, I'm going to try and move that over here, make this smaller. See if I can make this small enough. Yeah, close. Close enough. All right. So you'll see here that what we need to do is have the boot logo set to false. And the reason that we do that is it says right here in note 4, by setting boot logo to false, you get the Linux boot message on the HDMI display. If you set it to true, you only see it when pressing a key on a keyboard. Okay, so we're going to set that to false. All right, and then what you're going to see here is this is a FTD file, right? So this is where the image lives. Okay, where does the image live? All right, and so we have two options here. We can either say SD for a micro SD card or eMMC for the eMMC. Obviously, I am using eMMC. Okay, so eMMC. And then what we're going to do is we're going to uncomment a couple things and add one more. So I'm going to uncomment the WS2812, which is right there, this guy right here. Okay, and then I'm going to uncomment SPI dev11, that overlay. I'm going to uncomment that. And then we're going to add, and I made a note here in the document that this must be added. We're going to add overlays UART3. Control C. Now I'm going to put that right after this guy. Control V. Okay, so there's our UART3. Everything else should be exactly the way it needs to be. Okay, it will. In the original instructions, it said that you had to change something under here. Okay, I haven't had to do that, so I'm leaving it alone. Okay, I put it in red here in the document in case I'm wrong. Right, but for now we're going to leave this as is. All right. So we should have everything that we need right now. So all the overlays are taken care of. And we told him that he's going to boot from the eMMC. All right. So he knows what he is. He knows the file structure, etc. The overlays are in place, and this UUID at the bottom seems to work just fine. And the root file system type is ext4. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to save that to the eMMC. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and pause this while I go over to the machine. Okay, we're back at the machine. It's still powered off, and I'm going to take the module and push it right back on there like that. Not too much pressure. If you think a pin is bent, if there's any resistance at all, back off and check. It only takes a second. Okay. Put both of the screws in. The hands of a sturgeon. Okay. Well, there we go. So the eMMC is mounted. Hit the switch. Smoke test. Well, the lights came on and the fans are spinning, so I'm going to call that a win. Okay, I just put the eMMC into the printer and booted it up. Looked good. I forgot to put my mic on, so I'm going to have to re-record that. I'll do that later. All right, so what we should be able to do now is actually SSH into that machine. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up PuTTY. That's another application you're going to need. You're going to need PuTTY to SSH into that printer. And that printer lives at 10.0.0.52. And let me close this guy out. All right, and so we have a PuTTY connection, and I'm going to log in as BIQU. B-I-Q-U. B-I-Q-U. And we're in. Ta-da. All right, we're good. So this is tremendous progress. It took me, when I followed the original instructions, this just never happened, okay? So, we're good. You know, there's some that says important. If you're using an HDMI screen, you will need to set the screen rotation to inverted. I didn't have to, but I put the links, okay, to the Klipper screen docs that tell you about rotation and touch issues, okay? What you have to remember is if you invert the screen on Klipper screen, that doesn't turn the touch around. So the problem being is if you invert the screen, if you touch on the left side of the screen, it presses a button on the right side. Okay, so you're going to have to take a look at that. All right, so we're actually just going to move right into installing Klipper, and it's when they say Mainline Klipper. Here's how I want to explain this, okay? This is the way I want to explain this. Because we're at a point where we have to literally treat this like a single board computer, okay? All right, and we're going to use Kaya. Kaya is an installation utility that's used for Klipper, right? So if I was going to go out right now, buy myself a brand new Raspberry Pi 4, I could just load it up with a Raspberry Pi image, Debian image, and I could get an internet connection, load Kaya, and load Klipper. just like that. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. This is the same thing as you would find anywhere else. We're going to say sudo apt update and sudo apt upgrade. And basically what that's doing is it's just doing the same thing that we would in any Linux application. And I'm going to right click, and there it is. So I'm going to start that. This is going to take a while. I'm going to pause, come back. Okay, that took like 4 minutes or so-ish, about 4 minutes. Alright, and sometimes I'll reboot after this, but we're going to go ahead and install Git first, okay? So because the repository lives up on GitHub, we need to clone that repository onto the eMMC, and we're going to use the Git utility to do that. Git is not installed by default in this guy. So we're going to install Git, Control C, right click. It only takes that's a pretty quick one, so just hang in with me. A couple things that I found were is that some of the files, it's done. Some of the files that needed to be that were moved from my original backup, which we're going to talk about in a minute, from my original backup, they needed to be altered for the new device because the paths had changed. So, and you'll see that coming up where on the old eMMC, all the file paths had some Sovol something, and on the new image, it's BQ something something. Okay, so some of those things had to change. All right, so moving on. All right, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to grab Kaya, Control C, right click. And there goes Kaya, that's quick. And then we're going to fire up Kaya. All right, and this is the utility that we're going to use to install pretty much everything. You know what I'm going to do? So I'm going to grab this like this, and I'm going to make the text bigger. All right, so now I'll be able to see a little bit better what we're trying to do here. All right, so what you can see here in Kaya is this is a utility that allows us to install, update, remove, etc., etc. But these are all of the instances of the applications that we need to load. Right? So because we're doing Mainline Klipper, what we're trying to do is take our machine from a Sovol flavored Klipper to a generic Klipper, the one that you would see every day and load onto a bare Raspberry Pi. Okay. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead, and this is the order that I'm going to do it. Okay. And I'm going to pretty much follow the document. I'm going to install Klipper and Moonraker. Those are absolutes. Those are must-haves. It won't work without those two elements. And then I'm going to put mainsail and fluid. Okay, I'm going to do Klipper screen, crow's nest, and then we'll do time lapse, and then we'll be back pretty much where we were when you bought your Sovol. Okay, then we're going to have to put all the behaviors back. All right, so here we go. All right, so one. I'm just going to do one. I'm going to go through the rest. I'm going to show you they're installed. I'm not going to make you watch me do all that. So we're going to install, and the first thing I'm going to install is Klipper, which is number one. I'm going to use Python version 3, which is by default. The number of instances of Klipper, because you can do multiples, I'm just going to do one. And then he's off to the races. I'll be back shortly. Just in case you were wondering, so I just installed Crow's Nest, and you need to do a reboot after Crow's Nest. So once you do, he's going to kick you out. Just go ahead and go back to the window, right click up on the top, and click Restart Session. And that'll put you back in so that you can do BIQU. BIQU. And because the last command that you did was to launch Kaya, you can just hit the up arrow, and it'll put that last command back in the in the area, and click enter, and there you go. Now you're back at Kaya. Just so I throw it out there. I'm still going to install Klipper screen. I'll be right back. Okay, we're back. So I did all the installations. You probably noticed that when you installed Klipper screen, it did an automatic reboot at the end. Klipper screen, it's up and working, but there is no connection to Klipper. And so what I want to do is, while I have this terminal up, I just went back here just to show you guys that I have Klipper, Moonraker, Mainsail, Fluid, Klipper screen, and Crow's Nest are all installed. Okay. And what I want you to see is, if I go to Mainsail, to 10.00.52, you will see that there are problems. Okay. There are things that are happening, especially error configuring printer, right? And if we look, we have a lot of these, we have 13 files. There's going to be more than that when we're done. So I'll go to 25. And now we can see all the files. We do have a printer config, but there's practically nothing there. Practically nothing there, okay? So I want to talk to you about something. This is very important right now. All right. Before I started, before I did anything, the first thing I did, two things right away. The first two things I did was I fired up WinSCP, and I'll show you how that works. Where is that? WinSCP. And WinSCP gives me a graphical user interface to the device, and my printer lives at 10.0.0.52, and username and password is BIQU. I'll go ahead and log in, and now what we can see is, instead of having to go through here, right, so let me do a quit. And I wanted to see what that directory structure was. If I did it through here, through SSH, I list, right? And then I can see all the directories. And then if I want to see what's in, say, printer data, because it's the only thing with a P, right? So I can just say cd space P, and because it's the only thing that starts with P, I can just hit tab. It takes me to printer data, and I can see, it takes me to the printer data directory. I can do an ls, and I can see all the things that are in printer data. And that's where config is. So config is where all the config files are, right? So when we open up Fluid or Mainsail and we go to the files and we see printer config, Moonraker config, all that, that all lives there, okay? So what I want to show you is this. So before I started, the very first time, before I sneezed at my machine, the first thing that I did was I went to the machine, I opened up WinSCP, I took the entire directory structure, which at that time was home Sovol, okay? And I just went Control A, and I grabbed everything and I copied it, and then I pasted it in a folder. In my case, it was SV08 backup. So I had the entire file directory of the machine. There were a few errors along the way. He was getting a little bit upset moving from that operating system into Windows, but that's okay. It got everything that I needed, and I'm going to prove that to you because my documentation so far seems to work. So I'll let you take a look at what mine looks like, right? So here's I have two backups. So here's my SCP backup, and this is what my machine looked like when I started, okay? And I had some other add-ons, like I had Obico, okay? I had Mobile Raker. What else did I have? Oh yeah, I did Octo Everywhere. I'm gonna do a video actually. Actually, I have a list of 29 videos about how to integrate just about any printer, including Bamboo, into these mobile apps. So that'll be really good. All right. So because I have everything, there's more that was required from me, and it's a good thing I did this, from me, than what was suggested that you back up in the document, okay? Because in the document it said all you need to do is go to mainsail, right? Go to machine, select all of them, and then download them, right? And if I download everything, it just goes into a zip file, okay? Goes into a zip file. Trust me, it'll do it for you, okay? And that zip file will be in your download directory, and then you just move it out onto your desktop. So what I did was I dropped that file, that zip file. That's my zip file. I did it yesterday. So that was like 18 hours ago. I've had 4 hours of sleep trying to make this work. Yeah, it's about right. And then I unzipped that, and what I got were those config files, and that's all the things that you would see if you opened up mainsail and went to machine, right? These are all those files, right? Okay. So hopefully you understand where I'm coming from. So there's really two types of backups. The backup where I just back up the config files, and then there's one where I grab the entire directory structure from the original EMMC module, okay? So we're going to be working with both. There is a requirement for both. So I'm going to put that at the very top of the document, that it's a requirement that you load up WinSCP, which is a really easy download or really easy install, and it's totally free, and nobody asks you for any information. Okay, all right. So I'm going to go ahead and just I'm going to minimize this for now. All right, so I'm SSH'd in. Let's go back to my document. And my document says the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to add the time-lapse feature. Okay, and there's a couple reasons why I'd like to do this. Okay, so the Moonraker, the config file, I am not going to pull from my original file structure. Okay, so I'm going to use that one as is because Moonraker was installed. Okay, therefore I want to just add these things. So I'm just going to do right here. I'm going to grab all of those things, Control C, go to my terminal window. Actually, before I do that, I'm going to go back to the root directory, CD tilde. I'm going to right click, and I'm going to install time-lapse. I'll be back. Okay, so time-lapse has been installed, and what we're going to do is we're actually going to enable that. So we're going to come over here, and I'm going to grab all of this right here, Control C. I'm going to go to my mainsail interface. I'm going to go to machine, and I'm going to go to mainsail config. And there's a good amount of stuff in here, but here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go down to, why is he read-only? Why is he read-only? I'm going to do a firmware restart on this guy. Try that again. It's not read-only anymore. Okay, so Moonraker conf, and what you'll see is there are all these update managers, and the reason that these update managers are there is so that when updates are available, it'll turn on the little alert bell in the upper right-hand corner, and this will tell it where the Git lives to get those updates, etc., etc. So I'm going to drop that in underneath the first one. Control V. And there you go. Update Manager time-lapse. And then that's all your stuff. And there's other things that you can do. You can go and see the mainsail crew Git if you want to know more. So I'm going to go ahead and save and restart. Now, so what needs to be understood here, okay, is that theoretically, in the real world, if I just got a machine and I wanted to clipperize it, I would have my device and I would go through the procedure that you just saw. I would somehow network connect to that printer, and then we would have to flash that printer so that this Klipper instance could talk to it. Okay? But functionally, everything is there. Klipper is actually there, and all the little parts of it are actually there. And now what we have is time lapse. Okay? I don't have any time lapses, but what is interesting is this. Because I have crow's nest and I have time lapse, I can come up here and I can go down to time lapse, and now you can see all of the options for taking time lapse photography. Now, when you get your Sovol, it comes with a camera, so that's one of the reasons we want to get it back to where it was. So now we have time lapse, but if we did everything right, what we should be able to do is add our camera. So if I go down to webcams and I say add webcam, there it is. There's my camera. Okay. So from a single board computer perspective, treating this like it were a Raspberry Pi stuck underneath my printer, my functionality is there. Unfortunately, I can't talk to my printer, and there's a lot of information that I need in order to make that happen. So a lot of that did not get carried over, if you will, from the old eMMC to the new image. So it's unsovolized at this point. But there are some things that are required for a Sovol platform, and there are some path statements that are going to be left over that say, talk to the Sovol file structure, and we can't do that. Okay? All right. So let's see where we are in the document. In the document, it says that now we've done that, right? We need to install NumPy. Now, NumPy really is we use it in deep learning a lot. I used to be an artificial intelligence engineer. We use NumPy. It's a giant calculator for Linux. Okay, does some really sophisticated math. All right, and the reason that we do that is because it does input shaping. It tests the resonance of the machine, calculates vibration. It does things like it takes care of making sure that you have nice sharp corners on your prints. Okay, all right. So we're going to go ahead and install NumPy. Control C. Go to my terminal. I'm going to go back to the root directory. Right click. And I'm going to install NumPy. All right. I'll be back. Okay. That's a nice quick install. Maybe 3 minutes or so. All right. So now we have NumPy installed. Now, here, this is, I'm just going to make this optional for right now. Right, so again, this is kind of out of order. This is comes from the original document. I copy and pasted and made some changes along the way. And here's where he wants you to go into Orca Slicer and add the G code to enable your time lapse. But the good news is if you were using time lapse before, it's already there. All right. So it says now you have installed Mainline Klipper with the Mainsail web interface and add-ons. No, we haven't. Okay, we have not. All right. Okay, and again, have you rebooted after crow's nest, etc. Okay, now is where it's going to get a little interesting, and now is where it's going to be really important that we have that initial backup that we did when we started. All right, and if we take a look at our, I'm just going to restart this, reload this. Okay. So here's where we have a problem, right? And it talks about the MCUs and all that. But we're going to take care of all this, and it's going to get worse before it gets better as far as Mainsail is concerned. Trust me, I'm going to make sure that the documentation takes care of all of this, right? Okay. So we need a few things to happen. And what we're going to do is so we need all of the information about the printer, as well as all the definitions that allow us to do things like input shaping, the size of the bed, right? All these things are in the printer CFG file. All those things live there. And if I were to open up my, here, let's do this, because I'm going to move it anyway. So in my SCP backup, under my printer data, under my config directory, you're going to see printer.cfg. And in that printer.cfg, if I open that up with Notepad, you'll see that there's a lot of stuff in here. Everything from the probe for leveling, for homing, the size of the bed because it's quad gantry, all those particulars about our printer that are required for it to work, right? Because our installed Klipper right now has absolutely no idea about what he's going to be controlling. So it's really going to happen in two steps. First, we're going to tell Klipper all about our printer, but he won't be able to talk to him because the MCU won't match. Right? So we're going to make Klipper okay with this printer CFG file enough to get us to a point where he says, okay, I'm happy with everything that you told me. I just can't talk to the MCU. And I believe that that's where we need to be, and the rest should be pretty easy. And then it'll just be physically flashing the MCU on the main board and the tool head, and it should be just like magic as far as you know. Okay? All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this printer CFG file. This is my original backup, and I'm going to copy that guy. All right, and then I'm going to go in through WinSCP, and I'm going to go to printer data. I'm going to go to config, because remember, right now my machine, my printer CFG hardly has anything in it, right? So there's really not much for Klipper to complain about. Okay, there's no connection. Okay, so back to where I was. All right, so we're going to go to WinSCP. Here is the data config, and here is the printer CFG that we were just looking at. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to paste from clipboard. I'm going to say okay, and it's going to say, hey, there's already one there. You sure you want to write over that? I'm going to say yes. Okay. So now we have a new printer CFG file that used to be 1K, now it's 11. All right. And what I need to do is I need to come over here to this to the terminal, and I want you to do sudo reboot now. Okay, and then he goes away. We're going to let him reboot. It goes pretty quick. I'm just going to watch on the screen over here. You can probably hear my chair squeaking and me banging the mouse on the mouse pad and all that. Okay, so he's loading up here now. And it's pretty quick. We probably can get back in now. All right, so let's go ahead, and I am going to restart the session. Yep, there we go. And I'm going to log in as BIQU. All right, there we go. All right, so let's go over here and let's just reload the entire thing, 1052. And now you're going to see some stuff, all right? This isn't just I can't talk to the MCU anymore. Now he's complaining about the structure of the printer CFG that you just threw into that directory, and now Klipper has to deal with it. All right. So we're going to make some changes to the files, the contents of some of those files, and it may seem complicated, but I'm going to make sure it's well documented for you. So again, we're going to go back to my document here, my heavily edited document, and what we're going to need to do is in that printer CFG file, we're going to change the Sovol pass to BitQ. Okay, and again, this is why WinSCP is just so incredibly valuable, right? So I'm going to edit this from within WinSCP. It actually has a built-in editor. Okay, and unless I've already done it, Let's see if we got any Sovols. So the way I'm going to do that is I'm just going to do a find, and I'm going to look for Sovol. Hey, it did find one. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're just going to replace all those Sovols with BIQU. That's the most important thing. That's our host name. Okay. See if we got any more. Hey, there's another one. We're going to call that BIQU. We could just do a find and replace everything, but we're not going to do that. Okay. Find next, and there are no more. That's good. We'll cancel out of that, and I'm going to do a save right over here. Boom, save. Okay, we're good. I'm going to go ahead and close that guy. All right. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to go and we're going to we got to do a couple things. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to go to our getip.cfg in that data directory, and I'm not sure if it lives there yet. Yeah, printer data config get IP config doesn't live there yet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my original backup, and I'm going to make a note in my original here. And then we're going to go over to my original config directory, and you'll see get IP config. All right. So I'm going to grab that guy. I'm going to copy that guy. I'm going to go back into WinSCP, and I'm going to throw him into that directory. Okay. But that get IP config file has the wrong path. So we're going to edit him. And it says Sovol. We'll just make that BIQU. All right. Now we're going to save him. All right, good. Go back to my document. We need to add the macro.cfg. Is he already in there? I don't think he's already in there. Nope. So I got to add him too. All right. So we're gonna add our macro.cfg. Copy. Go over here. Right click. Paste from clipboard. Yep. Notice I'm not editing my originals. If I have to come back and do this again, I need to make sure that I can follow my document. Okay. So in my macro.cfg, I'm going to edit, and what you'll see is Sovol right there. QU. I think that's the only one, but we're going to look anyway. Yeah, that's it. That's the only one. All right. Next, we have to configure our printer and put back some add-ons from Sovol. No, we don't. They're not really add-ons. Okay, they're not really add-ons. What they are is they're called Clippy extras. Okay, so there's Klipper, and underneath that directory is Clippy, and underneath that directory is extras. Okay, but we need to add these two particular files. We're going to use WinSCP, and we're going to move these two files, probe pressure pi and Z offset calibration pi. The Z offset needs to be edited and change that Sovol to BIQ. Okay, all right. So here's the directory structure: Klipper, Clippy, extras. So if I go to my original and I go back up to SCP backup, and I go to Klipper, Clippy, extras, I can go down and grab the Z offset calibration. I'll click on him, and then I'll go back up to probe pressure pi, and I'll hit Control. I'll copy. I'll go back over to my WinSCP. I will go up to BIQ, Klipper, Clippy, extras, and I'm going to copy those in there. So right click, paste from clipboard, OK, and because they didn't exist before, it won't give me any problems. So we need to go down to the Z offset calibration pi. I'm going to right click, click edit, edit, and what we'll see is, I forget where that is, so I'm going to do a find. Sovol. There he is. Okay, we need to make that big Q. Okay, cancel. And let's save this. All right. All right, we're done there. Okay. All right, there is this file called saved variables config, and that needs to go into the printer data config folder. All right, and that's where it is right here, this guy. Because I don't have an options folder, the printer CFG, we already took care of that. Okay, don't worry about it. We don't have anything Sovol anymore. Okay, all right. So I'm going to go ahead and grab savedvariables.conf from my old printer data. Let me go printer data. I'm going to put these into a better order in the document, so it'll be nice and clean when you guys get it. All right. So I'm going to grab this guy. I'm going to copy, and I'm going to go over to my WinSCP, and I'm going to go to my root printer data config, and I'm going to drop that in there. Yep. And I believe that needs to be edited, right? No. Okay, good. If I didn't make an error, then we're good. All right. We have one more thing to do. I've added it to the new document, and that is we need to comment out the lines in the macro config file for the factory reset, which makes perfect sense because factory reset to what, right? Factory reset all the way down to a base image. I'll reset back down to Klipper. It's in specific when I look at the shell script, so we're just going to comment that out. So we're going to go over to our machine, to macro config, and you'll see right here it's on line, in my case it's on line 18, and we're going to comment out all three lines. And if I've done everything right, what should happen is I should now see, aha, okay, so this is what we were looking for. So if we look at my document, what we were looking to see was this particular error, right? And it's an MCU protocol error. This is frequently caused by running an older version of the firmware on the MCU, which would make perfect sense. And that's why we have to flash the firmware onto the main board and the tool head. So I think we're where we need to be with our Klipper installation. I think we're officially at Mainline Klipper now, and we just have to provide updated firmware to our main board and tool head in order to form a connection to this instance. So that'll be the next part. That's going to be some physical stuff, and I'll be on camera, and we'll be wiring some things up and using our ST-Link and our ST-Cube program and all that kind of good stuff. So thanks for hanging in there. Appreciate your time. And if you're enjoying this, if this is working for you, if you've been wanting to do Mainline Klipper but were afraid to, if you're happy with the document that I end up with, please like and subscribe. I'd like to continue on doing these. I have a list of 29 other videos to do, and I'd love to do more. So like and subscribe. Thank you. Okay, we're back at the computer, and we're at the portion of the document where we're going to be using the ST link to attach to the main board, as well as the toolhead MCUs. Before attaching the ST link to the printer, make sure it's powered off, okay? Once the USB connection is established to the ST link, the board will be powered by the USB, all right? Now, you could go, if you have total faith in all the documentation and everything, you could just go ahead and we can just go ahead and blast out this firmware to our MCUs. But I'm not going to do that. So I'm going to show you how to do the main board. I'll leave you to do the tool head because the procedures are exactly the same. So let's go ahead and do that. Here I'm just going to take the 4 wires from the ST link. Just pay attention to the wires on the right and left side. That's ground and 3.3 volts. Make sure they're correct. I like to hold them all as one piece in order, and then just put them all on as one piece like that. Then I take the other end, I take the ST link, I plug it into my USB, and you should hear an audible like that, and you're good to go. So I have downloaded the STM32Cube programmer, all right, for ST-Link, and we just need to make sure it's wired correctly. I showed you that in the video that's going to be stuck in between, and I'm going to be adding some stuff. So here is a picture of the tool head. Same. Actually, the definitions of the pins are a little off to the side because of where it's positioned. However. Okay, and I added some stuff for the main board and things like that in this document. All right, so what we're going to do here is the ST link has been inserted to my USB. You saw that I did that, and what I did was I opened up STM32Cube programmer, okay, and I can see that my ST link is being seen because I have a serial number. If you don't have a serial number, you think you might have done something wrong or you needed to replug the USB cable, just hit this little refresh button there. It'll go out and refresh it. Okay. Right, so we're hooked up to 3.3 volts. We know, and we can see here that the target voltage is 3.1, at least, right, as a minimum. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go, since I'm already attached, I'm going to go to read, and I'm going to say read all. And then I'll get this. So what I want you to do is when you do that read all, you'll see that in the lower left hand corner you'll know that it's actually working, and it'll give you a message that says data read successful, how long it took, etc. And this is all the data in hexadecimal and how it looks in ASCII that's living out on the firmware in your MCU right now. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this this button right here that we did read all, and we're going to say save as, and I'm going to put it on my desktop, and I'm going to call it main board firmware backup. As a matter of fact, I'm going to take it a little further and say 8/25/24. I'm thorough. I was an engineer for a long time. I don't take any chances. Go ahead and click save, and then it'll take that file and save it to your desktop or wherever you decide to put it. And there's mine. Mine just showed up right there, right? And it's a bin file, binary file. All right. Okay, so we've done that. So we've saved it from the read menu. You can call it anything. Here they said, you know, main board, original firmware bin, what have you. Okay, do that on both the main board and the tool head. All right, so I'm not going to take you through doing the tool head. just do the exact same thing that we just did. All right, and I'll be right back. Okay, thank you. Okay, when you're done doing that, you should have two files. You should have your main board backup and your tool head backup. I read somewhere in some of the research I was doing that the tool head sometimes can give you a little bit of a rough time when you're doing the backup, and they say that to make sure that it's exactly 128K in size, and you can see right there it says size 128 KB. All right, so I think that's a good thing. Anyway, so now what you're going to do is make sure that ST-Link is completely removed from your machine, and then power it back on, which I'm going to do right now. Hang on. Okay, we're back. The machine is powered on, and what I should be able to do now is, I'm sure it won't let me do anything. Yeah, I'm not connected, so I'm going to right-click, restart session. Yeah, QU. I just don't want to lose this big terminal window. All right, there we are. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to install Catapult so that we can do the flashing to our MCUs without having to use the ST-Link adapter. Okay, so we need a couple things. Now this part of the document that I got in the original, I haven't changed anything yet. If I have to change anything, we'll change it along the way, and I'll cut it out of the video so you guys don't have to watch me fail, and we'll go from there. All right, so here's where we're going to go. We're going to take this command, Control C, go to our terminal, right click, enter, and I'll be right back. Okay, now we'll use this command to install Catapult. Alright, and as soon as it does that, it brings up this menu. And this is our Catapult configuration, and what this is going to do is it's going to generate a file for us. Okay, so in the instructions, if we go back to our browser here, wrong document, there we go. What we need to do is says in the menu config, select the following options, and the only one that it shows is the microcontroller architecture for ST microelectronics, STM32. Makes sense, right? That's the adapter that we actually used to pull this information. So we just got to make sure the microcontroller architecture for STM32 is checked. All right, and then it will ask us which microcontroller. So we're going to choose the microcontroller architecture, and even though this says LPC 176X, when I hit the space bar, okay, and this is where we're going to use our WinSCP again, and we're going to go out to let's reconnect that session to 52. And now in our directory structure, we have Catapult, and we have our out, and we should have our .bin file, catapult.bin. All right, so we've generated our catapult.bin file, and it's good to use. So we're going to grab this file, and I'm going to copy it to the clipboard, and I'm going to pull it out here onto my desktop. There we go. There is our catapult.bin file. All right. So the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to have to go back and reconnect one at a time that ST-Link adapter to our main board and our tool head controller and flash this STM32 loader, bootloader, that's what it is, a bootloader, onto our MCUs. So I'm going to go ahead and hook up to my main board right now and come right back. Hang on. Okay, so I plugged that ST-Link back into the machine, and when I did, it popped the programmer back up, and there he is, serial number, so that's how you know. Okay, and then we're going to follow our instructions here, and it says that the next thing we're going to do is we're going to do a full chip erase. All right, so now that we have that catapult.bin file with the STM32 bootloader on it, we're going to go ahead and do that full chip erase, and then we're going to go back and drop the new firmware on. Okay, ST-Link was plugged back in, attached to the USB. STM32Cube programmer is up. I am connected. All right, and we're going to go over here to this little button right there, and we're going to do a full chip erase. Are you sure? I am. Mass erase successfully achieved. All right, so now there's nothing on it. So what we're going to do is we're going to open a file, and that file is on my desktop, and that file is called catapult bin. Okay, here's where I found an error in the documentation. It will be changed. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back to this erase, but we're going to do programming. It's erase and program. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to our file path. Will be, I browsed to my desktop. I found catapult bin. I'm going to do a verify. Why not, all right? And I'm going to start programming. Download verified successfully. Okay. So I'm going to assume it's okay to go ahead and do the same thing to the tool head. I'm going to leave that up to you. I'll be back. Okay, smoke test. I'm turning on the printer. Okay, well, no smoke. All right, and when I went to the main cell interface, this is what I got. It just says printer is not ready. The Clippy host software is attempting to connect. I did a firmware restart, nothing happened. Still looks the same, but it certainly looks different than it did before. So let's go ahead and move on in our document here. All right, so right now where we are is we're going to be using Catapult to flash Klipper firmware onto the MCUs using that utility. Okay? All right. So, like it says, for future Klipper firmware updates, after completing the steps, you only have to run Catapult. All right? So I'm going to go ahead and SSH back into my printer. I'm sure I have been thrown out. Yeah, okay. So I'm going to right click, restart session. All right, we are in. All right, now earlier in the document, and I added this in there, I'm going to have you actually go out and run a command that's going to pull some information. And it's just that ls command that we ran earlier. Okay? And this is it right here. All right, so I'm saying important. Run the following command in the SSH window, ls. Boom. All right, Control C. And this is going to give us this little window with this information, and we're just going to record that and throw it into our notepad. Remember, it's persistent, so you don't have to worry about anything being lost, right? And I already did it, and it is sitting right. Maybe I didn't save it. Yeah, I probably didn't save it. Okay. So what we're going to do, and in the instructions it says that we are going to go out to our printer.config. I'm just going to open that up right here. Printer config, and I'm going to grab MCU extra. I'm going to grab both of these, Control C, and I'm going to go to my Notepad++ on a new tab, Control V, and now I have these IDs. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and yep. Okay, we're good. All right, moving right along. Says you have to replace each ID to have the same pattern as above. To do that, find the correct serial name for the MCU with this command. Okay, which we did. All right, hang on a sec. Okay, before we go any further, we're going to install PySerial. I have the link in the document. Okay, I installed PySerial. Okay, so along with the document, I'm going to provide you with a file that's called Update Klipper MCUs SV08.sh. This guy right here. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to take that file and we are going to put it into our Klipper. Which directory you put it in that in? We're going to put that into, so we're going to take that file and we're going to put that using, I'm just going to use WinSCP, it's easier. I'm going to go to the queue, and now we have, right in our main Klipper directory right there, I'm going to take this guy, I'm just going to drag him in. Okay, now we have our update Klipper MCUs SV08sh. You know, I had a really tough time trying to get this automatic MCU script update to work. All right, so this link goes to here. And this automatic MCU script update file, right? That file by itself, and we saw it earlier, just looks to be a mess. But when I see it here, it looks okay. So here's what I did in order to make this file work, because it just wouldn't work before. I got all kinds of errors. So what I literally did was I copied all of this into my Notepad, Notepad++, right here, and I just went ahead and I just changed those values, and then I saved it, file save as, out to here. I just put it in out on my desktop, but there's a problem with that file because it's saved in DOS mode, so I'm going to show you how to get by that. Okay, so once you drop that into your Notepad++, you save it somewhere, right? Just save it somewhere. And you're going to copy that, right? You're going to use your WinSCP, and you're going to copy that file into this directory, okay? Now once it's in this directory, that means it'll be available through us through SSH as well. And in our Klipper directory, if I do ls, we can see that file right there, which I've already done the chmod on. Okay, and I'll leave the chmod instructions in the document. However, the problem that I had was this right here. So when I went into this file, it was actually DOS configured. Okay, because I rebuilt it on a DOS on a Windows box. Okay, and so what I did was I did a Control-O to write it out, and if you do an Alt-D, you can see this little MS-DOS format. and that's what mine looked like. And these instructions are actually on that site, but I could not get the raw file to load, so I made my own. Maybe you'll have better luck. I'm going to leave the instructions in, but I'm also going to put these alternate instructions in. And so I just did an Alt-D. I hit Enter. Fine. And then I did Control-X, and it left it out there. So then I was able to go ahead further with the instructions, right? So further on in the instructions, after I've done this piece right here, and I'm going to show you how I did the file piece right here. Okay, I'll put it right here. And then I ran this command, okay, this command, and here's what we're going to get. So when I run that command now, I actually get it to work, and this just caused me all kinds of trouble. So this one, right, looks the same, right? This guy right here, CD home, okay. And I'm going to go ahead and hit Enter. Little stop Klipper. Yep, host is fine. You called it SV08, whatever. I can always change this later. Created the symbolic link, as you saw us fly by there. And it says that I want to enable extra low-level configuration options. And one of those is to turn on the GPIO pins. Because when I powered my printer back up, there was no fans, no lights, right? I had no idea that the printer was really running. And I put a Noctua fan underneath because the noisy, before I even assembled my printer when I first got it, I put that fan underneath. So yeah, so there's no noise. Right, so I'm going to go ahead and in my right here, I'm going to hit the space bar, and then that gives me the new option to GPIO pins, right? And I'm going to hit the space bar, and it says I want to PA1 and PA3, so PA1, comma, space PA3. Okay, and I'm gonna hit Enter. PA1 and PA pound. That's not right. I messed that up. So what happens if I hit PA3? Okay, and then we're going to go ahead and okay, we're going to change a couple more things. We're going to go up to our microcontroller is obviously STM32. I'm going to hit the space bar, and that is right. STM32. Hit the space bar. That looks the same. That looks the same. Fine. Don't check that. And it all looks good. All right. I'm going to hit escape, save the configuration, yes. And now I should just be able to go all the way through and let it build the firmware, and hopefully it will use Catapult to load that out to my to my my MCUs. I'll be right back. Okay, it finished, and it says. Okay, so it finished here, and it says to just check above for any errors, and I didn't see any. Everything looks good. So I'm going to press Enter to continue. And it is now flashing Klipper to my host MCU. And I can actually see that blinking light down there. Great. Press Enter. Hit the following screen that the parameters are correct for. Yep, sounds good to me. All right. I think I am good to go. Forgot to unpause you. Okay, so I went ahead and now it's going to have me set the configuration for my tool head. And my tool head, I want to do PA6. So if I want a hot end fan during boot up, and that's the way it used to be, so I'm going to keep it that way. And we'll hit enter. I want my microcontroller to be STM32. And nope. Communication interface, that's fine. That looks good. All right, and I'm going to hit escape. Save the configuration. And now it'll create the firmware for the tool head. All right, so it says that the firmware is done building. Look for any errors. I did not see any, so I'm going to go ahead and click enter. And now it should be flashing my toolhead. There we go. Kind of cool, right? Hey, and I just heard my fan turn on. How cool is that? Enter to continue. Starting Klipper. And let's see what it looks like now. Look at that. We are officially on Mainline Klipper. Wow, that's cool. This is going to be a long video. I'm going to be doing a lot of editing here to try and make it all make sense again. Finish off the dock, and I'll be back with you shortly. Okay, so here we are post-installation, and we've got to turn back up on the right side. Everything is running. We have our front panel. There's a couple things about this front panel that were interesting. The buttons kind of work backwards, so if I do that, you would think I could move down through there. I can't. I got to go counterclockwise to get through, right? One thing is missing, and that is the calibration option, but that's okay. You can just do shaper calibrate, and that'll take care of your input shaping. Klipper screen is working, and yep, so everything works as it did before, and we'll home all. So the printer is functioning as it did before. It ran all of the calibrations and tuning, and yeah, it works great. Loads filament, and all of my flows and everything are good. A lot of that stayed because my configuration was moved from the old Klipper to the new Klipper. So with that being said, I'm very happy with how it turned out. It's kind of like magic, but real. So all right, well, I hope everything works for everyone, and have a wonderful day. Do the next right thing.